Hello and welcome to part 3 of this mini-series to get us all in the zone, whatever that might look like for all of us, thinking about 2021. If you haven't listened to part 1 and part 2, I would highly recommend you go back and just have a little listen, but also just be really gentle and kind with yourself. I was saying to a client the other day, it's okay if we go slow. It's okay if we are really discerning and we focus on building really strong foundations. And you know what? I think there is this pressure, especially when you begin a new year, that you're elegantly going to just dive into a wonderful pool of the next chapter. And that might be the case, maybe on January the 3rd or January the 9th, you have this glorious moment where you're like, I feel in flow, everything's coming together. But equally, it might be more of a resistance going on, as in you're sitting on the side of the pool, you've maybe dangled your feet in a little bit and you're like, oh, it's really cold. And there's that moment where you know that you're going to have to slide your bum off the side of the pool. And it may make a bit of a squeak. It may not be an elegant situation and you have to get into the water. So I just want to say, be really kind with yourself. Go easy. You don't have to do all the things immediately. But do listen. Do listen. Do pay attention to what is going on. And really try and tune in with what you want. If you can do that, everything becomes much easier, because I've realized through doing this process over the years that actually I don't waste a lot of energy. The energy that I have, I'm really discerning, spending it in really good ways. And sometimes that is watching a box set on Netflix, of course. But I don't sweat the small stuff. I'm not worried about all the things that my pals are doing and that I haven't done yet. Sometimes it is just about connecting with what's next for you, what's your thing, what's your version of success. And I think somebody said last lockdown, like the first one, I haven't learnt to bake and I haven't learnt a language and I haven't conquered an instrument and all the rest of it. And exactly, that's the thing. We all have different things that we have capacity for at different times. And I think some days it's just about getting to the end of the day and going, right, okay, we're here, everybody's fed, everybody's watered, we're feeling kind of good, the house doesn't look too terrible, some work has been done, and it's just a new normal, I guess. So this third part today is going to be looking at how you can get these goals moving and shaking. And I love an analogy, and here is my one for today. I want you to get these goals on the road ASAP, because what happens quite often is so many people spend all their time packing the car and repacking it and then thinking about it and going, well, we maybe won't go today because it's raining. Maybe we'll get up early tomorrow. Or I wonder if the motorway is going to be busy. Maybe it is. Well, I hope I don't get car sick. So your aim at this stage of the game is to get the car going. Because quite often the packing of the car, the moving stuff around, the considering the different, what suitcase am I going to take and all of this stuff, it's ultimately not getting you closer to where you want to be. And I know how seriously these car packing extravaganzas are. Here's a funny story for you. When I was about 17, I got it's not a terrible one because nobody really sees it. I got a small tattoo, which I wouldn't do now. I got it in a leisure centre. The woman who did it said it was only 5 years because it will only go through a few layers of skin. I'm like, how naive was I? But I was 17. Anyway, 23 years later, it's still there, isn't it? Of course it is. But I told my dad about this tattoo when he was packing the car, because I knew he'd be really fixated on it. I knew he'd be like, oh yeah, what? You got a tattoo? Okay, cool. Can you just get those carrier bags from the kitchen? Because I know that they're going to go on the back seat. Anyway, enough about my terrible tattoo. And if anybody wants to see it at some point, I don't know, maybe I'll put a picture on Instagram or something like that and have all a laugh. But basically, let's get back to this. So the aim is to get the goals on the road. So writing stuff in notebooks, doing things on pieces of paper, sitting and thinking about your goals and what you want, absorbing webinars, listening to podcasts, great. You haven't left. You haven't got the car on the road yet. And you know what the thing is sometimes people pack the car and they never do anything with it. So I know myself that I've done this, that I've written stuff down on pieces of paper, I've done my planning, and I will freely admit this, I've never done anything with it. I've never referred to it. I've never checked in with it. I've never questioned whether I still want this thing. I've just kind of written these lofty ideas down, and that's where they've stayed. And over the years, as I've honed my own technique, I guess, and it's different for everybody, you know, what works for me isn't necessarily going to work for you. But I want you to pay attention to these patterns of behavior in you and really analyze what you need in order to get the car moving and get the stuff on the road. So one idea that I've had this year, well, firstly, before I go into that, I want you to give your goals, your hopes, your desires, everything you want to be, do, and have. I want you to give them the love and the attention and the care and the nourishment that they deserve, because you've had these things for a reason. Now, this may not be a case that you can spend a whole day going, I'm just going to really dedicate my whole day to this one goal and ignore my family, ignore my work commitments, ignore what's going on in my email box because I'm just doing that one thing. You might be able to do that, of course, but for many of us at this stage, I'm fitting my goals here, there, and everywhere. And sometimes it's that moment of looking in my living room and going, everybody seems happy. Everybody's right. I'm going to go for a run. Okay, trainers on, leggings on, go. 20 minutes. I can do that because I know that the kids are taken care of, Matt's there, and it's all great and groovy and all the rest of it. So sometimes the goals that I'm thinking about on a day-to-day basis are fitting around the other things, of course, because we have busy lives. But when I'm doing that run, for example, I'm giving it all my love. I'm giving it my attention. I'm really giving it nourishment. I'm saying that it's important to me. So that's really important, to see your goals as a relationship, as an interaction. Are you giving them the attention that they need? So many of my clients say, I just want to generate more income. But are you paying attention to what's going on? Are you being with your finances? Are you looking at your bank account every day? Are you making sales? Are you moving as you want to in the world? Are you making some bold moves? These are all the ways that you can show this goal love. So the first thing I was going to do this year, and I'm actually going to record it this afternoon, and it might feel a bit weird me saying this, but I'm going to try it and see, and I'll let you know. I'm going to record my goals as a meditation and as something that is already done. So I'm not going to read all my goals out because that just feels a little bit too personal, but writing them and saying them out loud as if they've done. So I might say something like, it's December the 31st, 2021, and this has happened. This has revealed itself. This has been achieved. And I was thinking, if I listen to that for 10 minutes in my own voice, so that sense also as well, if it's your own voice, it suddenly becomes really familiar and it feels like it's something that could be doable for you. I was thinking, if I listened to that and paid attention and gave it love for 10 minutes before I open my eyes, in a way, in the morning, gosh, how would that change my day? So I'll let you know, I'll keep you posted on that. But for me, it just feels like another way of bringing them to life. The second thing I want you to think about in terms of your goals is it's really important to know when you're on or when you're off. And being able to measure whether you're actually giving something like some love. So whatever your goals might be, wherever you can, try and get a number, try and get a marker of success. And you may have a goal for the year, but how can you, I guess, chunk it down? So it's that question of, how do you know that you're doing it? How do you know that things are going well? What does a 10 out of 10 in this particular situation look and feel like for you? What are the results that are coming in? What are the things that are being ticked off the list? So you're going, oh my goodness, this is great. This is happening. This is going on. So it's those sorts of measurements that will be able to give you that indication when suddenly you go, oh, this feels a bit stagnant, or this feels like it needs a bit more attention. This feels like I need to make some moves. Instead of just falling into that, nothing's working, everything feels rubbish, when will I ever want to do this? Maybe this is not meant for me. Instead of falling into that mindset of it's never going to work out, this is a really powerful way of giving you the indication of what you need to do next. So if things are not necessarily moving and flowing in the way that you want them to, pay attention to it. And maybe it's a case that your goal is not specific enough. So those things, like I've said before, like I just want to be happier, or I just want to feel more like me, go into the specifics. How do you know what's happening, what's occurring in that way? I've mentioned also about chunking it down. So this is really important as well. Somebody might wake up on January the 1st and they go, right, I want a 6-figure business this year. But unless you know what that number actually means, what does that number mean on a weekly basis, on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis? Is that turnover? Is that profit? What are you going to do in order to get there? And again, if I can help you one-on-one with this, I absolutely will. Just book a free session with me. Just let me know and we can get some time together. But you have to chunk it down, because otherwise what you end up doing is you end up just floating in the possibility, floating in the idea and the notion. Again, going back to that car analogy, it's that sense of going, oh my goodness, guys, you should see how the back seat folds down. It folds down and it folds up, and oh my goodness, like there's so much room. And as for my roof rack, hello, let me show you. That's what that floaty, I want to earn 100 grand this year type situation is. Saying it is just packing the car. You want to figure out, how are you going to get it on the road? How are you going to keep moving and getting closer to your goal? I want you also to capture your progress, and capture your progress from that drunk best friend that I was talking about the other day, who's like, you did amazing today. Look what you did. Look what happened. And this is a really good thing just to capture. And, you know, I sometimes, when I'm on it and, you know, I'm not doing it every day, but sometimes my kids will say something really funny or do something, and I'm like, I've got to write that down. I never want to forget that. That's such a really great thing. Or, you know, if my eldest teacher comes out and I'm like, oh, he did this really kind thing today. Again, that's a moment where I'm like, oh, okay, great. We're raising a nice human. That makes me very happy. Another thing that we've done as a family, and I'm saying it like we've done it for years. We haven't. We literally started it this year. But after 2020, and that realization that, wow, the years kind of go really quickly. And, you know, my son turned 5 in October. I was like, wow, we've got 5. Oh my goodness. And time's passing really quickly. So what we did was we wrote down on strips of paper things that we had achieved or had gone really well, or we were just really chuffed to bits with from 2020. So Matt, my partner, for example, wrote down that he had created the best pork crackling he'd ever done, and he did it on Boxing Day, and he was so pleased with himself. He was like, yes, look, I'm sorry for any vegetarians or vegans that are listening, but he was so thrilled with the way that it had gone. And there were things like, my daughter had learnt to walk, like that was amazing. My son had been able to ride his bike. There were moments that I ran the furthest that I'd ever run in my life, and I was thinking, like, gosh, isn't it important to capture all those things? So we now have a 2020 box, and now we have a place in our house where the bits of paper are. And whenever something really good happens, we just put it in this box and we capture it in that way. And maybe next New Year's Eve, we'll sit down and we'll read them and we'll remember. And hopefully, my plan is to have a cupboard full of all the different years and just being able to capture what's going on. So capturing your progress is really important. Another reason why is because it keeps you on track. It keeps you in a place of, oh my goodness, this is actually happening. I'm on the road. I'm moving forward. So when you get in a car 5 miles down the line, there is a sense that you're like, okay, the sat nav's kicked in. We're on the journey. We're doing this. We're absolutely doing this. So I hope that goal setting process helps you. And despite whatever is going on in the world right now, or however your circumstances have changed, I want to say, not each and every day will you be able to give these goals your time, your energy, your efforts, your money, everything that they need. But please, at least look at them every single day. Make it easier for yourself. Make it easy for yourself to succeed. And know that whatever happens, these are still important. I do hope there will become a time when there will be a bit more normality. And I'm doing bunny ears there, whatever that means. Another thing I wanted to raise here is, what do you need in order to achieve these goals? So it could be, if we go back to this driving analogy, if you know that you've got to do a really long journey, you need to have enough fuel in the tank. You've got to be well rested so you can concentrate on the road. You've got to have some rest breaks. You've got to know where you're going and maybe have a map and all of these things. So you can work out the analogy for yourself. But sometimes people will just say, well, I'm just going to get there. I'll figure it out. I'll get there. It's all right. But if you can set yourself up for success and really put the things in place that you need, you're going to get there so much quicker and more efficiently, and you're not going to burn out at the end of it. And sometimes saying what you need is, in the first instance, saying it to yourself. I need this. This is important to me, and here's why. And secondly, it might be that you need to tell somebody else. So whether that's a coach, maybe you need to say it out loud, and I'm all ears. You're more than welcome to get in contact with me. Or it might be saying it to your partner, or your best friend, or your mum, or somebody in your life that is going to be able to hold that space for you and for your dream. And we have to be really careful here about who we tell and who we pass that flame to. So if you're thinking about sharing this goal, sometimes when you say it, you might not necessarily receive the response you had anticipated or wanted. So I have been burnt definitely in this moment where I've told the wrong person and said, I'm going to do this, I'm working on this, and they've given me a really iffy response, or like, yeah, right, okay, how are you going to do that? Can you make money from that? All the negative responses, we know, we're familiar with them, aren't we? So you have to be really careful who you tell and whose energy you allow into where you want to go from here on in. So I've really realised, my partner Matt, we've been together a very long time, and there will be some things that I'll say like, right, I want to do this, or I'm going to work on this. And he will sometimes not necessarily understand the full picture, or he might be surprised, or those sorts of things. But he'll never sit back in judgment and go, as if you're going to be able to do that. There's no malice there. It's always a really loving space. So I feel like I can share that. If, however, I was with somebody who was demeaning, or didn't make me feel good, or didn't make me feel like I could be in possibility, then I wouldn't do that either. And there are some people who I know who I wouldn't share things with. So do really protect them. Do protect your flame. So you don't want to just pass it to somebody and then they just blow it out, and suddenly you're left going, oh, right, well, that was going to go somewhere and now it isn't. So really take care of them. And another thing that I would say is, when you're thinking about what do you need to allow time and energy and space for that. So, for example, on a very basic level, if you want to increase your exercise every single week, you might be thinking, well, I need to get organized. I need to make sure I schedule the time to do it. I need to make sure that I've put my running kit out the night before. Or I need to make sure that I've got enough food in the fridge, so I'm never going to go, well, I haven't had any breakfast, so I can't run now. It's about knowing what every step of this process is going to look like. And at first, when you start doing these things, you're like, ooh, maybe this feels like a lot of work. But I promise you, once you start to set a new normal for yourself, it's going to become so much easier and so much more like second nature. So don't panic. Don't worry that this is going to feel a lot at first. It will work itself out. But please do, and I invite you to do so, to dedicate some time. Because what can happen is saying what you want it sort of stays the same. It's not kind of moving forward. And you want to be at a point where you feel like you're really cooking this thing. It's getting bigger, it's going where you want it to, and it's really getting off the ground rather than just being a lofty idea. So I hope these 3 episodes have been really useful, and do go into the planning bit of my website. There are loads and loads of other videos and resources and things like that which will be really useful if you're thinking about planning. And planning is stage 1 of my Your Personal Brand Plan course. So if you are really interested in monetizing and really thinking about, where do I take my personal brand? Like, oh, I feel like I'm leaving money on the table. I feel like I could do much more with this, and you need a plan. Do get in touch, because I am welcoming people in at the beginning of this year, and I'm really excited to support people as you go through this. If you're looking for a bit more of a short, sharp support, do come and join January's Jam and Plan Day. This is a CEO day. It's 4 sessions. You get full recordings of everything, and also you get a week of email support with me. Now, I know this is going to be even more valuable than it was when I started. So I actually started this Jam and Plan package back in the first lockdown, because I was like, people are overwhelmed. They need a plan of action. They need time to dedicate on their business. And this, again, isn't necessarily always about growth of like, I've got to set these big, hairy, scary goals. Sometimes it's like, what do I need to do and have in place in order to be consistent? So if Jam and Plan sounds like maybe your kind of thing, do come and set some goals with us. It's a really potent formula, I don't know if that's the right word, but equation basically, because that CEO day is great for solely focusing on your business. Now, there are 4 sessions, each an hour long. If you can't make all 4 sessions, don't worry, everything is uploaded that night, so you can access it as and when you want. But the thing that really is the game changer in this process is the support from me for a week afterwards. because how many times have we all been to an event or a situation or a thing, or we've had time working on it by ourselves, and we're like, yeah, oh, I want to do that. Yes, I feel really fired up. And then the next day it's like, I'm not really sure where to start. I don't know how to move forward. But with me there at the end of that phone, side by side with you, helping you, supporting you, going through the process, oh my goodness, it's going to be really great. And you'll have loads of tests. This is a thing that always happens. So the first time I did this, somebody came along, and by the end of it, one of her goals was never to work for free again. And she was like, no, I'm too experienced. I can't do this. I can't do stuff for exposure. I'm pulling an end to it. And guess what happened that night? Somebody got in contact with her like, oh, we would love you to do X, Y, and Z for exposure. And the fact that the next day she was like, Nikki, I need help. I need to go back. I need to be really strong in my position, and I need to set a new normal for yourself. The fact that you've got somebody in your corner, it's a great thing. So do come and join January's Jam and Plan. There are only limited spots available because of this one-to-one support, and we can speak and communicate every single day if that would work for you. There are some people who go, right, I am going for this. A week from now, I want to be vastly different. I want to know what I'm doing. So it's a really wonderful opportunity for you to come and get January moving and shaking and heading in the right direction. Thank you so much for being part of this. If you're listening to this and you think somebody else would benefit, as always, please do share and subscribe and rate and all those wonderful things. I really appreciate it. Do leave a review as well if you have a moment. Thank you once again just for being here. Happy New Year. Come on, January 2021. Let's do this, and I'll speak to you soon. I'll be back over here on Monday. Have a lovely one.